Alaska is a place of stunning beauty and quiet solitude. For those who live there, like Tim, it's more than just a home. It's a connection to nature, the wild, and a world that remains largely untouched by human hands. Surrounded by dense woods, towering mountains, and vast stretches of wilderness, Tim's cabin was nestled deep in the heart of this rugged landscape. It was a peaceful existence, with only the sounds of nature to break the silence. But little did he know, a simple morning would soon become one of the most extraordinary experiences of his life. Tim was used to the sounds of the Alaskan wilderness, the rustle of trees in the wind, the calls of birds, and the occasional scurrying of small animals near his home. But one morning, as the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the trees, Tim was startled awake by an unfamiliar sound, scratching at his front door. Living in the wilderness, it wasn't uncommon for wild animals to roam close to his cabin. In fact, bears were frequent visitors in the area, drawn by the scent of food or simple curiosity. At first, Tim assumed it was one of them, maybe a bear or even a fox. But when he glanced out the window, his eyes widened in surprise. Standing on his porch was not a bear or any of the usual wildlife he was accustomed to seeing, but a small lone lynx kitten. Tim couldn't believe what he was seeing. Lynxes are notoriously elusive creatures. They avoid humans, hunt primarily at night, and sightings are incredibly rare. Yet here was this little lynx, right on his doorstep, scratching as if it had nowhere else to go. His first instinct was to grab his camera after all. As a wildlife photographer, this was a golden opportunity. But then his thoughts shifted. The kitten wasn't just there by chance. It was likely hungry, possibly lost or separated from its family. He couldn't just let it leave without offering some help. Carefully, Tim opened the door. The little lynx didn't flinch. In fact, it seemed almost at ease, as if it had decided this was a safe place. Tim, still cautious, slowly placed some food on the ground. The kitten approached without hesitation and began to eat, its tiny body trembling with hunger. After it finished, the kitten gave one last look at Tim before darting back into the woods. Disappearing among the trees as quickly as it had come, Tim stood there for a moment, stunned by what had just happened. He had always hoped to catch a glimpse of a lynx in the wild, but never imagined one would come right to his front door. The next morning, Tim awoke again, not to a noise, but to a strange feeling. Something told him to check outside. As he peered through the window, his heart skipped a beat. Gathered on his porch was not just the lynx kitten from the day before, but an entire family of lynxes. There were 7 of them in total, 6 playful kittens and their mother, who sat calmly at the edge of the porch, her watchful eyes scanning the area to ensure her cubs were safe. The kittens, oblivious to the world, were running back and forth, playfully chasing one another and pouncing, as if practicing their hunting skills. It was a sight few people would ever witness, and here it was, happening right on Tim's doorstep. His hands trembled with excitement as he reached for his camera. As a wildlife photographer, this was a once-in-a-lifetime moment. Lynxes are rarely seen by humans, let alone an entire family, and so close. The fact that they had chosen his home as their temporary playground was nothing short of miraculous. He quickly began snapping photos, capturing the kittens as they leaped and tumbled over each other, their fur gleaming in the morning light. Each shot felt like a gift, as though nature itself was offering him a glimpse into a world usually hidden from human eyes. But even as Tim photographed the scene, he couldn't shake the feeling of awe and gratitude. This wasn't just about getting the perfect shot, it was about being in the presence of something truly wild, untamed and free. The mother lynx, ever vigilant, watched her kittens with the same protective gaze any parent would. Yet despite her wariness, she allowed Tim to witness this private moment, as if understanding he meant no harm. The kittens continued their antics, pouncing on each other, their tiny paws swatting, and their fur standing on end in mock battles. Tim couldn't help but smile. It was a reminder that even in the wild, there was joy. These kittens were no different from any others, curious, playful, and full of life. As the sun climbed higher in the sky, the lynxes began to retreat back into the woods. One by one, the kittens followed their mother, disappearing into the thick underbrush. Her visit had been brief, but had left a lasting impression. Tim stood on the porch, the silence of the morning settling around him once again. The porch now felt too quiet, but he knew what he had just witnessed was something he would never forget. Later that day, as Tim sat reviewing the photos he had taken, he reflected on the experience. It wasn't just about seeing a family of lynxes. It was about the connection he felt to the wild, to the untamed world just beyond his doorstep. In Alaska, nature is always close by. But there's a difference between knowing it's there and truly experiencing it. Tim had always respected the wild, understanding that these animals belonged to a world he could never fully be part of. They were born to roam free, to hunt, and to survive in the harsh Alaskan wilderness. This lynx family had reminded him of that. They weren't pets. They weren't meant to be domesticated. And they weren't there to stay. Their visit was a fleeting moment of connection, a rare glimpse into their lives before returning to the world where they truly belonged. The next few days passed quietly. Tim hoped the lynx family might return, but they didn't, and that was okay. He knew they were out. They're somewhere in the vast expanse of the forest living their lives as they were meant to, and in a way, that made the experience even more special. It was a reminder that wild animals should remain in their natural habitats, undisturbed by humans. Tim had always known this, but witnessing it firsthand made it real in a new, deeper way. These animals deserve to live in peace, free from human interference. The wild landscapes that are their true home. Alaska is home to many national parks, places where animals like the lynx can thrive without disturbance. Though Tim's encounter had been incredible, it was also a reminder of the delicate balance between humans and the wild. As he looked out at the woods surrounding his home, Tim felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for the opportunity to photograph the lynx family, but for the reminder of how precious and fragile the natural world truly is. The story of the lynx family may have been a brief chapter in Tim's life, but it was one he would carry with him forever. The images he captured would serve as a reminder of the beauty that exists just beyond our reach. In the untamed corners of the world where animals live free and wild, Tim couldn't help but hope that one day he might hear the sound of scratching at his door again. But even if he didn't, he knew the wild was always near, waiting to reveal its wonders to those lucky enough to see them.